Welcome back. In this video, we will go over how to highlight your text and why it is so important for this exam. Let's get started. Let's go over what you will learn. We will touch on the two main texts. Why is the customs exam open book? What you need to buy before you start to study, meaning your textbooks, what format, highlighters, tools, and how to correctly highlight your text. The two main texts are the customs regulations of the U.S. and the harmonized tariff schedule. The current customs regulations as of this recording is the 2017 edition, which was revised on September 30th, 2017. The current harmonized schedule is the 2017 edition. Now, when you first receive these two books, they're a bit scary. The harmonized tariff schedule comes in a box that weighs about 10 pounds, and it's wrapped in two different sections. If you think of all this material and having to understand and digest this material for the exam, it is overwhelming. But the good news is there is no need to memorize because this is an open book exam. So why is the customs exam open book? Customs is obviously not testing for memorization because it is an open book exam. You can refer to the text to any text. You can take material that you've studied with to the exam. So what are they testing for? What they are looking for is your ability to find the information, to know where to look for the information, to find the correct information. So an open book exam is comparable to a dictionary, let's say. If I ask you to look up the word zebra, and I give you a dictionary and you do not know how to use a dictionary, you might start on page 1 just flipping pages to look for the word zebra. Now, if you know how to use a dictionary, you obviously will access the information very quickly. You will immediately turn to the Z and look for the alphabetical listing for zebra. So an open book exam is not testing for your ability to memorize information. What open book exams do is they test your ability to access the correct information for the question that is being asked. In this particular exam, you are also timed. So it is important that you access the correct information rather quickly. And this is where highlighting comes in. It is incredibly important for you to highlight correctly in order to access the information quickly. So let's take a quick look at what you will need to buy before you even start to study. We've also provided a link below to the page on our website where all the supplies that you will need are listed, including some that have not been covered in this module. You need highlighters and you need multiple color highlighters. In this case, I happen to buy the Sharpie because it has less tendency to smear. And that's important because you will be doing a lot of highlighting. It's also important that it has 3 yellow highlighters, which are easier on the eyes than the other colors. The yellow highlighter brings out the text. The other colors tend to dim the text, so it's important to use the other colors with one swipe. Avoid going over the text multiple times. Whichever highlighters you select, try to look for one like this one that says Smear Guard or Smudge Proof, markers that will not have the text on the page bleed. The next item that you will need is a red pen. Why red? Again, because it stands out, and you truly need something to stand out and jump out at you so that you don't have to look for it in the page. It's easy to identify. Now, I tend to use the micro point because there isn't a lot of room to write. The thinner point does actually take up less room as it writes. It also writes sharper because it is thinner. Any micro point will do. You will also need pencils, and you can use any pencil. They do not need to be a number 2 pencil because they are only going to be used for you to take notes if you're not sure yet if you want them in ink on the text. Since the exams are now electronic, you will not need a number 2 pencil for the exam, but you may use a small ruler. The ruler is for those of you who are particular about lines being straight. Now that you've seen what you actually need to be able to highlight, let's take a look at what not to do first. We know that all of this information seems important. And the first time that you read it, it's going to seem like everything is important. It is very easy to over-highlight. If you over-highlight, you will only hurt yourself. It is imperative that you do not over-highlight. Do not become highlighter happy and think, oh, all of this is important and highlight away. This is not what you need to do. Put yourself in the exam right now. If you were looking at a page that looked exactly like this, do you think it would be easy for you to find the information? Especially during crunch time, especially when you have a little over 3 minutes per question to get to the answer and fill out the answer sheet? This is not going to help you. So focus on highlighting correctly. One of the recommendations that we make to our students is to read it over at least once before you touch the highlighters. Once you've read over it at least once, then come back and highlight what you feel is important. You may also wish to use your pencils at this time. Take notes prior to using your highlighters or your markers, which are permanent. Now let's talk about the different colors and why it's important to use different colors. Let's look at this example we just talked about. Does anything on this example jump out at you other than everything? Because everything is highlighted? There's quite a bit of very valuable information in this small section, yet everything is bland. Everything looks the same. So how do we make it different? How do we make it jump out at us? How do we make it visible to your eye very quickly, especially during an exam, which is what we need? Let's take a look at some information that should jump out at us. Let's take a look at this small section again. It covers basic requirements for a license, and it specifically covers the individual broker's license. So it's not a corporate license or a partnership license, it's the individual customs broker's license. We can immediately see that there are 4 parts because they are numbered so. And in the first section, or part A, we can see that in order to obtain a broker's license, an individual must. Now, this is important because all aspects of customs are legal. So if it says must, then all requirements have to be met. In this case, the individual has to be a citizen of the U.S., attain the age of 21 prior to the date of submission, be of good moral character, and have scored a passing grade of 75% or higher within the 3-year period before submission of the application. Now, and is important to consider here because it denotes that every component has to be adhered to. Now, how much of this information do you think is jumping out at you? And all of it is important? Not very much. Let's take a look at how we can correctly use the highlighters so that we can have the information jump out at you, especially during the exam. We want it to be very visible. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to designate your colors. What do these colors mean? I would recommend that for percentages and dollar amounts, you use green. It makes sense, green for money. Easy to remember. For years, I would use the pink or the red. For days, weeks, and months, I was using the orange. For customs forms or other agency forms, I was using blue. And just for important information, I would use yellow. Now, this is what I use. This does not mean that this is what you have to use. It's okay to use your own colors. Just make sure that you're consistent in how you highlight, because this is what's going to help you access the information very quickly while you're taking the exam. You should do a similar cheat sheet when you first start so that you use your highlighter colors correctly. Now let's take a look at the same exact example when it is correctly highlighted. We can still see the 4 areas, but now our eye goes to the information that we need. We can see that in order to obtain a broker's license, an individual must be a citizen and not. Notice that not is underlined with a red pen, which is very important because you want to make sure that any exemptions stand out. And there are many exemptions in the text. Be a citizen of the United States on the date of submission of the application referred to in citation 111.12a, and not an officer or employee of the United States government. Very important. You should also cross-reference 111.12a. What is that? That way you don't have to go back and look at it. It's Customs Form 3124, which is the application, and there's a $200 cost. This way, when you're reading this area, you're not having to flip to 111.12 to find out what they're referring to in this section. When we move on to number 2, we also see that the applicant must attain the age of 21 prior to the date of submission of the application. And it refers us back to the previous application, but we already cross-referenced. Moving on to number 3, they must be of good moral character. And circle the ands. Again, it's referring to an and, not an or. And in legal language, it means that all 4 must be met. And number 4, have established by attaining a passing grade on the written examination taken within the 3-year period before submission of the application. And it again refers to the same citation as above, which we already know is Customs Form 3124, and there is a $200 charge. So let's go back to highlighting. We see that 75% is there, so we highlight that in green. And we also have 2 references to years. 21 must be 21 years of age, and a 3-year period before the submission of the application. That also gets highlighted in the same color because it's years. So if a question comes up on the exam and it references the basic requirements for an individual license, if the question is asking years, you can flip to this section and immediately see what years are highlighted in the color that you chose for years. If the question deals with percentages, you can immediately go to your greens in this case because your greens highlight percentages. So now let's go back and look at the yellows. The yellows should allow you to very quickly read without reading everything in that area. Let's take a look at this. Basic requirements for a license. Individual. Be a citizen, not an officer or employee of the U.S., attain the age of 21 prior to the date of submission of the application, be of good moral character, and attain a passing score of 75% or greater within the 3-year period before submission. Let's take a quick look at both of these examples side by side. Which of these 2 examples would you prefer to be looking at during the exam? If you have found this video helpful, please click the like button and also share with your friends. It would mean a lot to us because we've put so much work into helping you prepare for this exam. Please follow the link below to register. We have additional resources and other examples on our website. We're here to help you. Remember to subscribe and click on the bell to be notified when we upload future videos. We truly want you to have the CHB designation behind your name.